Where are we going?
We are heading to Perpignan to a, what's it called, like an event on...
exhibition on eco building.
Exactly, eco building.
Like a fair and some events that we want to attend. What do you expect to see?
Lots of fancy technologies that I probably can't afford currently, but that I'll want.
I'm hoping to learn about some of the local companies and artisans and people we could potentially hire or learn from. That would be useful, I think, to see who's active in the sphere in this region.
Excellent.
I hope.
Excellent. Let's go.
Let's go. Celebrate this because we got what?
It is. British people might hardly recognise it because we haven't used them for about 20 years. It's a checkbook.
It's a checkbook. And it's hard to survive in France without one, so very happy.
I'm going to write my first check.
You need your checkbook for all sorts of things, to pay for services, to prove that you are a responsible citizen, to reimburse people. Even your advance on rent can be paid by a check.
Yeah, you can. Some people pay in supermarkets, older people pay in supermarkets. It's generally for larger sums, but artisans, like people you're working with, tradespeople, tend to like a check.
It was very difficult without it. It took the bank how many months? Like 3 months? Maybe?
Well, they didn't trust us with a check at first. It's a big responsibility once you get this little piece of paper where you promise money. It took about 2-3 months to get a check. But...
Now, it took them 1 month to send us our cards, the actual plastic cards, and then another couple of weeks to allow us to do transfers, right?
Yeah, and we couldn't use chip and pin. That was the thing. The first 2 months we couldn't use chip and pin because we're risky people.
And then a couple more months, and we finally got our checkbook.
About 6 months in total, and we're finally barely trusted. They won't give us any credit though, so maybe another 2 years we can think about a mortgage.
I'll keep you posted. So much warmer here. It's 14 degrees warmer than where we were. No?
9 degrees.
No, but we drove past a spot where it was 0 degrees.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the mountains. Might take off the jacket at some point.
It's not even that windy.
No, it's not.
That's usually the problem here, windiness. Because you've got the sea and the mountains, and the wind blows across from the Atlantic side to the Mediterranean side, over the chains of mountains. It gets very strong.
Yeah, it brings a lot of dust. it's a fair representation of the process.
You can compare photographs of me before and after working with that stuff. I didn't look that clean.
What do you think?
It was not bad. A lot of solar panels. It's clear that this is. You can see, I mean, look, winter, palms, sunshine. It makes sense. 300 plus days of sunshine. Oh, yeah. Nothing about rainwater.
Rainwater collection, yeah, I'm quite surprised that they didn't single stack.
Photovoltaic is more sexy, right? Plus it's all about the money.
But we did meet a nice consultant, I think, an independent energy efficiency consultant. And then we also attended a talk on financing. Got some preliminary good news. So I think it was useful.
I think so. Plus it's a nice day out in the sunshine, right? Almost what? 20 degrees?
18, so much warmer than where we are.
It's amazing.
Trying to demonstrate how windy it is. You can try and see whether they're tasting or not. You know what you're buying? You can buy an olive tree, a palm tree. How do you have this palm tree delivered? Or those? They're totally for sale. Хотя у них так ветрено. Takeaway from today's fair is that we're going to replace insulation potentially.
And that we're going to speak with another expert in energy efficiency, but one with more experience in the grants and loans and the financing of this stuff, what you can get money for. He used to work for
our region.
He used to work for the agency, the main agency that distributes grants. But beyond that main agency, in typical French fashion, everything is beautifully complicated, like layer upon layer of competing, overlapping agencies at different levels. So
federal, departmental, regional, then depending on your
town,
income,
vineyard. It's ridiculous. It's so complicated. There isn't, the answer. If I want Europe, who do I call? If I want money from the government, who do I call? There isn't an answer. You have to call about 50 people probably.
Yeah, but you have to give it to them. They created a whole system.
It's great.
And there are offices, and they can even do an energy audit for basically free. because they said it's something like 90 something euros compared to around 1,000 from a private company. So
it's super,
I don't know.
but
I think
like
it's,
with many
good what
things
they're
French,
doing.
they like to create I don't know what they like to, or they just do. They create a complex system that's really hard to navigate.
So they need to hire people to explain that system to people.
Maybe it's a way to create jobs. But I mean, of course, you can't fault them because it's great. There's so much support,
Encouragement. And,
yeah. It's a bit sad that it's all targeted at people on lower incomes. I mean, okay, I get it, but it would be nice to have people in the middle supported a little bit as well.
yeah, also because you end up with what basically is happening right now in our house, where someone got these grants, the previous owner, using the system. Thanks to his tax bracket, he managed to get some of them basically for free, virtually free. But then we don't agree with the insulation choices that he's made, or I don't know, that were suggested maybe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were among the cheapest ones.
Yeah.
And so now we have to replace them, to replace some of that insulation, to make sure the house doesn't crumble in a
It's
couple
kind
of
of like
dozens of
when you go
years.
food shopping, right? If you go food shopping, and like when I was younger and I wasn't that interested in food or health or anything like that, you go food shopping, you orientate yourself based on, you know, what looks best, what's cheapest, what's simplest to understand. And then when you get into health, nutrition and all of that,
You realize what's actually good for you.
you realize what's good for you. It
Yeah.
becomes a lot more complicated and you pick a lot better. Unfortunately, he didn't pick very well, not just because we don't like it, but because the technologies potentially don't work very well with an old house, with old materials, you know, stone, wood.
There isn't enough knowledge about it in
There
the construction space altogether. I think if you ask people, builders, if you ask what materials can be used, I think a vast majority wouldn't tell you that you shouldn't combine non-breathable materials with stone walls, for example.
It's difficult though, right? Because you have to really be, it's more than a builder's job. It's, you head into materials science and physics and stuff like this.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't necessarily expect it. Plus, there's what we've already discussed and what we've felt as well, that builders, people that you work with, they tend to like to use the materials they've already worked with, which is obvious because they've used them, they've mastered them, they know where to get them, they understand how to work, what to avoid, they become experts.
Probably even get a discount where they buy them.
Exactly, but I think they become experts in them, and then anything that's new,
Yeah.
unless they're very open-minded, they tend to look at it quite suspiciously, which really limits you if you're like, we're trying to do things that are different.
Also,
non-canonical.
Clearly renovation and building are two close but different fields. And renovating an old stone house isn't the same as building a new house or renovating a newer construction.
Exactly, and very often, maybe it's because of where we are, but I think it's like this for a lot of France as well. Actually, it's not just the particular region, around the world actually as well, and for us too to an extent. But it's money is the driving factor. So everybody that we meet with, when we meet with experts, most of them tend to assume that our primary consideration is getting this done as cheaply as possible, which it partially is, right? Because we're having difficulty getting financing, and we're not rich, but at the same time we are willing to spend more than the minimum necessary
To make sure air quality is good,
yeah
to make sure the materials aren't toxic when they are being produced, and that they are recyclable or reusable later on, and most importantly to make sure that the construction of the house isn't compromised, because when you combine a non-breathable material with a stone wall, it turns into sand, like Paul showed us very well with a knife. Yeah, that's the key takeaway from today's visit to the fair.
As we were going out, Yusti said we were a bit disappointed though with the diversity of tech on offer.
Yeah, there was mostly just solar panels really and heat pumps.
Exactly, but you know there was nothing ventilation.
Yeah,
no
with
ventilation,
recuperation. Yeah,
no recuperation,
none of that.
heat recovery ventilators. Nothing to do with rainwater collection. Nothing to do with sanitation. Low flow toilets, low flow showers. Nothing.
Let
like that at all.
alone wind turbines, because I mentioned it when we were driving past the wind turbines, and I said, well, it's weird because I know that there are solutions for individual houses. There was nothing like that there, even though it's a really windy area like we've seen.
I guess we're just a little bit hippie-ish and we would have liked to see, I don't know, green roof, a green roof stand
no green roofs
next to an artisanal window restorer. And then we would have had zero budget to do anything but one room in the house.
Steve left the car with his checkbook, which we got today, proudly holding it in his hand, saying, wow, we can actually buy something now with a checkbook.
You want to cross or not?
Looks like he's crossing, yeah. Maybe one day we'll launch our own fair like that, an exhibition. But the talk was interesting, both of them. We attended to. I think they were useful.
Very, but I think one good kind of fundamental point to make, and to the authorities here as well somehow, they have this
Maybe they're watching.
Maybe they're watching. They have this whole system which they've developed, which we really appreciate and we think is great, to encourage and support transformation to more energy efficient households.
Transition énergétique.
Exactly. But like we saw with the previous owner, often because of a lack of knowledge amongst everybody, they're taking the simplest or the cheapest modern materials like extruded polystyrene, like fiberglass, this kind of stuff, and they're putting it in every build, as if every build were a new build. Where, you know, when you build a new build, for the most part, they're using modern materials, and those things all fit, or can fit, or fit easier, right? Because they were built and they were meant to go together. But when you're renovating an old house, which is a lot of the housing
there are so many
stuff
here, yeah.
There's so many here. It's not necessarily the best choice, or
Not
even the
at all.
safe choice.
Absolutely. I think it's short-termist, and also just lack of understanding.
Exactly. I mean, it works in the sense if you're chasing your energy ratings, you stick the polystyrene on, the house does become warmer, and you have, I don't know, a B instead of an F, right? And then, I don't know, you can rent the place here or whatever, or your energy bills are lower.
You're creating a different problem down the road. Yeah.
Maybe in 15 years you'll have a problem with the walls disintegrating because the damp between the insulation and the exterior wall has risen up between the two and contributed to degradation.
So these grants, they definitely should be upgraded to include these considerations.
Otherwise, in 20 years, these grants will be replaced by
Save your walls.
France, so my house doesn't fall down. France, ma maison pas tomber. Something along these lines.
We'll finish with this beautiful example of Steve's French.